Hello, everybody. Welcome to Italians in Maryland. This is our first episode. And hello, Daniela. We're very happy to have here Miss Maryland with us. Come stai? How are you?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, yes, it's great to have you here. And we have a few questions for you. And as our viewers definitely would like to learn more about the history behind Miss Maryland and your connection with the Italian heritage and ancestry. It's
Yeah.
really great to get to know you and knowing that we have our Miss Maryland right here in our footsteps in Baltimore. Bravissima, molto bella. So let me ask you maybe a general question to introduce yourself to our viewers. Where were you born in Maryland? Some personal information about yourself.
So it's kind of crazy, but I was born in Perry Hall, which is in Baltimore County, and I was born in the home that I'm currently in right now.
Oh,
So
beautiful.
we live in the same home that I was born and raised in for 20 years. Just joking. I'm older than that. But yeah, for a long time. So now I have my family of 3 kids and we live here. And it's really crazy because we have some of the same neighbors. So they've seen me as a little girl. And now here I am back at this house in Perry Hall with my family. So it's interesting.
Oh, excellent. Well, not very different from some Italians in Italy. They grew up in the small town and they stay in their
Yeah.
hometown. They
Yeah.
connect. And that brings us to our next question. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more in details about the history of your Italian roots and Italian ancestry. Maybe some information about your family in Baltimore, some highlights about your parents' history and professional activity. Maybe what was their occupation and things like that.
Yes. So my father was born in Calascibetta, Sicily, and it's almost dead center if you look for it on the map. And it's a small town. I went there when I was about 21 years old with my grandmother. So I got to see where my dad was from, and we stayed at one of the houses that my dad grew up in. It was really cool to meet some family. But in 1965, my father and my aunt moved here, and they were sponsored by their Aunt Mary, right? Yes, Aunt Mary Camerata. And she sponsored them to come here to work at their bakery. And once they got here and their work visa went through, then my dad started doing what he started doing in Sicily, which was be a barber. So my father started when he was 12 in Sicily as a barber. When his work visa went through here, he started doing the same thing. And my aunt, she started tailoring when she lived in Sicily. And when her work visa went through, she started sewing and doing all the tailoring. Yeah, so it's pretty cool because my dad ended up having a salon that he built on Bel Air Road in Perry Hall, and he still owns it and works it. So he started shaving when he was like other people, 8 years old in Sicily, and then started cutting their hair at 12. I would never let a 12-year-old cut my hair.
Yeah, no, family business. They start earlier. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I currently do hair as well. I've been doing hair for 21 years next month. So I work with him at the salon again now that I moved back home. But they continue to do that. My aunt has her bridal shop downstairs of the salon that she does a lot of alterations and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. And then I think it was a year and a half later, after they moved here in 1965, they brought over my grandfather and my grandmother. And my grandmother, she was a seamstress. She was making or tailoring men's suits. And my grandfather was working at a bingo hall down Bel Air Road. I forget where it was exactly, Hartford Road and Taylor Avenue or something like that. So he was working there for a while, and then they all became part of the Italian clubs. And growing up, from before we were around until we were born. We're going to all the Italian dances, the Italian festivals, like anything that we could keep our heritage and our traditions alive. That's what we did with them. So those are really good memories that we have. And we still do some of our traditions in our family. We make rice balls. We are actually going up to our family farm today, and our immediate family for dinner is about 30 people.
Oh, wow.
Yes, yes. So true Sicilian family, and we are making spingies.
Ooh.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
buono. Well,
Yeah.
it's funny. My mother too from this. My mother's side from Palermo, Prizzi.
Okay.
There's some Sicilian as well, and no, a lot of Sicilian in Baltimore and Maryland in general.
Yeah.
Oh wow! So there's still a community, I think, of Italian from Calacibetta in the town, right? In the Perry Hall, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, all the ones that I know are family. So it's funny though, because I moved to California for about 9 years, and then we moved to Florida. And when I moved to California, the Italian festival in Hollywood was at the end of my street. So I would walk down and go to the Italian festival and try all the food. And it's a really big difference when you have American Italians or American Sicilians making food that my Sicilian grandmother has been making forever. The taste is so different. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, especially some area in Sicily, they're very different, like from Palermo.
Yeah.
Also there's Marsala, Cefalù, a lot from Cefalù, Calascimbetta. I know a few people from that area. Well, very good. And wanted to ask you maybe a more, I hope not too personal question, but why did you decide to pursue a modeling career? And were you supported by any of your family member? You mentioned you were involved in the beauty parlor, so I think there may be a connection, especially with the trade, with the family, being in connection with the hairstylist. So maybe you could tell a little bit more about that.
Yes. So my mother and her sisters were modeling since they were young girls, and they loved it. And I grew up watching them, do their hair and their makeup and, going to the hair salon all the time. I would see it. Well, my mom had my sister and I and my brother in fashion shows at Hartford Mall when we were younger. And we started doing fashion shows, and I just loved it. I loved being on stage and in front of people. It didn't make me nervous. I just did my thing. So I continued that, and I just started every opportunity I could grab and make, another opportunity out of it. I did. And that's why I moved to California. All the modeling that I was doing here, I just wanted to take it there and see what would happen. I wasn't necessarily going there to be America's Next Top Model. I was just going to see what a different state and opportunity could bring me. So I went, and 9.5 years, I did some big jobs. I did a really, really big national job for Finish Line, which is a shoe store. And they had a 10-foot poster of me in all of their stores around the world.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was insane. But during that time of modeling, I did a few contests. I was Miss Little Italy, and I was representing Demimos, and did that. That was a lot of fun. And that kind of gave me a little touch of what a beauty pageant would be like. And I never thought to go any further in the pageant world until my neighbor a year and a half ago, I was watching her kids, and she came back to pick up her kids, and she was wearing a sash and crown. And I was like, what just happened here? And she told me about it, and I went and competed and won Mrs. Maryland. And then I went to Mrs. America in August, and I got top 15, which is huge and more than I expected. So I'm very honored to represent this title and represent Maryland and my heritage and everything that comes along with it. And
Maryland.
I'm Daniela Peeler, and this is my hot husband, Brian.
Good, Brian.
This is Maryland.
Yeah, I've had a lot of support from my family, a lot of support from our community. Everybody has had just as much fun supporting me as I have had doing it. So it makes my heart feel really nice.
Oh yes, I'm not surprised. You're bellissima.
Thank you. Thank you.
And as Italian words goes, bellissima. Do you maybe spoke some Italian at home? Could you maybe tell us about your experience with Italian language? I'm sure some of our viewers, some of them may know some Italian. Maybe what word or phrases in Italian or dialect would you like to share, or what can you tell us about your experience with Italian language?
So when I started going to the Italian festivals, that's when I learned about the dialect, because people would speak to me and I would say, I have no idea what you're talking about. No clue. But my family growing up, at our house, at my dad's house, because my parents are divorced. So at my dad's house, they always spoke Sicilian around the dinner table, everything. And as a little girl, I used to always be like, stop yelling, stop arguing. Why are you guys always arguing? Why? And they're like, we're not arguing. We're just having a conversation. And they just, they would get into it. And my grandfather they're just crazy, but they weren't arguing. They were having a good time. And I can understand my family, but I can't really understand everybody else. I can pick up a few little things, but the words that I know, my grandmother, just like any other grandmother, taught me. And she would have me say these words in front of everybody because, to be honest, I don't know why she asked me to say it in front of everybody at the time, but I thought it was so fun because they were the only words that I knew. And years later, I found out she always got me to say it in front of people because of how I said it. It was more endearing that I was trying to say these words, but I definitely don't say them correctly. And the words were "Di stonaste, ruffiane, da penare di tesoro."
Come? Say that again?
Di stonaste, ruffiane, da penare di tesoro.
Oh, bello, ruffiano mi è piaciuto, di tesoro.
Yes. And I don't know why she taught me those words, but that's what she said. But I say those now with the family as a joke to carry that on. But my husband, who is not Italian, Sicilian, or any of the kind, he's just white German. And he says stuff, he picks up on stuff. We'll say buonanotte with the kids. He'll say andiamo, bene qua, like we'll just little words, but I really don't speak much. And it's my biggest regret in life. So maybe one day you can teach me.
Oh, I see. Okay, no, yes. If you're interested, we do have classes for the community. But it's really great to get to know you, and knowing that we have our Miss Maryland right here in our footsteps in Baltimore. Bravissima, molto bella. It's a good way to start our channel, which will feature the history of many Italians, Italian American in our great state of Maryland. Also, the name Maryland comes from Maryland. The Queen of England was the Medici family. So I can share this later. But it's interesting, there's a connection too with the same name of Maryland, which is not according to the tradition given to the Virgin Mary, but to the patron of George Calvert, who was the one who founded the proprietorship, who was from Italian descent. So it's an honor to have you here too, as to opening our YouTube channel with Miss Maryland.
Really cool. Yeah, that's really cool to know.
Oh, sì, molto bene. Allora, grazie tanto.
Yes.
And thank you for coming. Quindi arrivederci.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And if you ever need me on here again, just give me a call.
Oh, sì. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Arrivederci.
Husband, wife, and some success to find.